evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Ridgecrest City Council. My apologies for being a few minutes late. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order with roll call. Here.
Mr. Blades.
Present.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Present.
Ms. Breeden.
Present.
For present, Mr. Heyman is absent tonight.
We have a call for the approval of the agenda, but based on the absence of Mr. Heyman, I'm going to recommend that we remove discussion action item number 2, which is discussion of the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority, as Mr. Heyman is our designated representative, unless Mr. Blades would feel comfortable speaking as the alternative.
I think we should pull it.
Okay, I agree. We'll go ahead and pull item number 2 from the agenda if so approved. Do I have approval of the agenda as presented with the removal of item number 2?
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion second. Roll call.
Mayor Bruin.
Aye.
Mr. Blades.
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam.
Aye.
Ms. Breeden.
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, we have one item in our closed session today, which is conference with legal counsel on existing litigation. Is there any public comment on the closed session item? Nope. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn into closed session and reopen regular session at 6 p.m. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Ridgecrest City Council. We are going to head and come out of our closed session and back into public session. If I can ask everyone to please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. And do I have one of these good men over here who would lead it for me, please? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Rajaratnam.
Please join me in prayer if you would. Lord, thank you for giving us this day. Thank you for the opportunity you have given to us to be on the city council and to serve this community, Lord. Lord, I pray for our country. Bless this country. Let this country be a beacon of hope for so many other countries, Lord. Pray for our troops who are in harm's way. Protect them from all evil. Lord, I pray for all the veterans, all of the people who are here today. Lord, thank you for their sacrifice. And Lord, bless them, bless their families abundantly, and give them and meet all their needs, Lord. Especially, Lord, those who are yet to come back from war, be with them. Lord, the people who are waiting for their beloved ones, Lord, be with them and give them your comfort and give them your courage, Lord. Lord, be with us today as we discuss matters relating to the community and relating to this city. Give your wisdom and bless each one of us here. In Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. Attorney's report out of closed session.
There's no reportable action tonight.
Thank you, sir. I want to, for the citizens here, thank you for being here. There was one change to the agenda, item number 2, which is discussion regarding the board of the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. With the absence of Mr. Heyman, we've removed that from the agenda for this evening. I just want to make sure that people are aware of that. And if I can ask Councilman Rajaratnam to lead us in a presentation of the key to the city.
Good evening. Last week, we celebrated America's veterans for keeping this country the land of the free and the home of the brave. Our country is what it is right now because of the sacrifice our soldiers have made for this country. America without her soldiers would be like God without his angels. There is nothing noble than the sacrifice these veterans have done for this country. Our country has the freedom today because of their service to this nation. We are what we are today, and the freedom we enjoy, the liberty we enjoy, is because of them. But often, their sacrifice and their service goes unnoticed. I always had a heart for the veterans because I read about the wars, I read about the people who could not come back to the country, to their families. So I always thought I should be able to do something. I never wore a uniform, I never been to a war. I don't know what it would be in a war, but I used to read war books, watch war movies, so that I get the feeling of that, so that I can do something for the veterans here. My only personal experience is my dad, who was recruited into Royal Air Force during World War II, because at that time India was ruled by British, and he was recruited in that, and he flew Spitfire, and his plane crashed and his arm broke. So that is the only personal experience I have. So today, because of the highest regard I have, the passion I have for the veterans, I wanted to give these 2 awards for the 2 organizations that serve the veteran community in our community. One of them is Veterans of Foreign Wars, Ship 4084, and American Legion's Post 684. Yeah. So first I would like to call VFW Ship 4084 to come forward. Yes, sir. So I want to read a few lines about what VFW Ship 4084 does. Veterans of Foreign Wars of the United States, established in September 1899. Their mission is to foster camaraderie among United States veterans of overseas conflict and to serve our veterans, the military, and our communities, and advocate on behalf of all veterans. Locally, VFW Ship 4084, established in June 1945, officially designated Lloyd E. Frost Ship 4084, Veterans of Foreign Wars, named after a United States Navy aviator from the local area who sacrificed his life in World War II. Currently has 333 members. The ship comrades and auxiliary members actively engaged in community support and outreach projects, in addition to the ship's core functions of support for veterans and their families. Worldwide, there are only 3 VFW ships. Ridgecrest is the location of one. All other local VFW entities are designated posts. So it's my honor to present Key to the City Award to VFW Ship 4084. You may want to come to the front. Thank you very much for your service, sir. I appreciate it. It comes from the bottom of my heart. I know. Thank you so much. Thanks for your service. Thank you. You want to say a few words?
Yeah, I'd like to say a few. On behalf of the men and women of VFW Ship 4084 and our auxiliary, I wish to thank the Ridgecrest City Council and especially Vice Mayor Mr. Solomon Roger Radaman for this great honor. Although the meaning of this award has changed over time, there are a couple of things that I believe remain the same. Although our cities are no longer locked, tonight this award recognizes the dedication, devotion, and importance of the VFW in assisting our fellow veterans. The motto of the VFW is "No one does more for veterans." The men and women of VFW Ship 404 are dedicated to upholding this guiding principle. Again, thank you for this honor. May God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Now
picture,
Okay,
and then we'll do the next one, just to be safe.
so we go there.
Yeah. Back there, I'm making this walk? Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for everything you did. Thank you, sir.
Now I would like to call representatives from American Legions to come forward. I'd like to read a few words about this. The American Legion is the largest wartime veteran service organization with nearly 2 million members and more than 12,000 posts in communities throughout America. The American Legion, established by an act of Congress in 1919, was instrumental in getting the original GI Bill through Congress and the creation of the Department of Veterans Affairs. Today, the organization is active throughout the United States, supporting current military personnel and veterans, sponsoring American Legion baseball, Boys State, oratorial contests, and other activities for youth, and pushing for the adoption of a constitutional amendment to prohibit desecration of the US flag. I like that. I really am. Whenever I see people burning the flag, my heart burns. So hope someday we will have that amendment. The John M. Armitage Post 684, located at 641 West Inyokon Road, was formed in 1946. The post helps support local community and charitable organizations and assists local veterans and emergency needs. The post and Women's Auxiliary supports Boys and Girls State each year and also provides scholarship grants to those seeking higher education. The American Legion Riders, a motorcycle group of American Legion, supports the Ridgecrest Military Banner Program, which allows banners to be hung on light poles throughout the city for active duty military members who are sponsored by local family members. The Riders also volunteer to serve food at the Veterans Breakfast held at the historic USO each month. The Riders also fundraise throughout the year to sponsor the Remembering Our Fallen Memorial that is on display in the Carnegie Center during a period centering around Patriot Day activities, especially taken care by, thank you so much for doing that every year. Now it's my honor to present the Key to the City Award to American Legions. I'll go there to take a picture. All right. Thank you so much for all your support.
Go right now?
Yeah,
All right, it's
Sorry.
short. You
sweet and short, right?
took my notes, what I had. First of all, I want to thank the, Mayor Bruin, City Council, and the local leadership and the citizens at Ridgecrest for presenting the key to our local chapter, 684, the American Legion Riders, and the Post 684. It's an honor to stand here and represent the American Legion and the 100 local veterans who have answered the nation's call to serve and continue to serve our community. American Legion is an organization open to all veterans and family members associated with any service member. The American Legion Post 684 currently stands at over 200 members in the community who answer the call from all branches of services. Our organization is comprised with active duty personnel, active veterans, and family members who continue to give back to the community. On behalf of our post commander, Paul Lapierre, once again, would like to thank you for his presentation.
Thank you so much. Thanks for your service. Thanks for being here.
You say anything, Mike? Mike has a footnote.
One footnote, I just want to recognize personally Nick and Carol Coy for the amazing work that they do with the Ridgecrest Veterans Advisory Council. I didn't want to forget to do that. They are amazing people and their team for what they do for this community and for our local veterans. So thank you, Nick and Carol.
Thank you for serving our community. We appreciate it immensely. We're excited we can recognize you. Should be doing it more often. So once again, thank you to all of our veteran organizations in this community, VFW, American Legion. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you for everything you do. That is one of the beauties of Ridgecrest being a military town, is that we always have so many people that are willing to give. So thank you guys, everything for you do for the community. We appreciate it. Okay, next is going to be our public comment section of the agenda. Public comment of items not on the agenda, persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Council will not respond to any public comments, but may provide direction to staff to collect information. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not act on any item that does not appear on this agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to 1 hour, and each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Is there any public comment from the floor? Once again, I'll make a call for any public comment from the floor. Seeing none, is there any public comment on the phones? I have sat in this seat for 2 years, and I don't think I have had a meeting where there is no public comment from either the floor or the phone. I just want to check one more time in the week following an election that there is no public comment on the phones. There is no public comment from the floor. And one smart aleck. Okay, we'll close the public comment section. That is a first. Council announcements or direction. There's no direction to offer. I have one council announcement, and that is that I just want to address the recent election. I want to thank everyone in our community who got out and voted. Thank you very much. Kern County Elections Department remains, I will use the appropriate term, behind, as we all are seeing it kind of being a very mixed bag. Apparently they have one sorting machine to get through the 52,000 ballots that they're remaining to sort. And for that reason, we are not going to discuss any results of the election this evening. We're only going to discuss any future items that we could consider. My only other council announcement is, again, an invitation and a encouragement to come out to our tree lighting ceremony on December the 2nd. I know I confirmed that the Grinch and Olaf are going to be there today. I also know that we've got orchestra, snacks, a beautiful tree, and more importantly, a wonderful way to kick off our holiday season here in Ridgecrest. So please, I encourage you to come out. It is a family event on Friday, December the 2nd, and I believe they're starting at 4 p.m. So we'd love to see you out there. Is there any other council comments, council announcements or direction? Solomon?
I just want to make one comment, otherwise I'll forget this. I was at the China Lake Alliance annual membership luncheon where Admiral Hash was the chief speaker. And I asked one question. I asked him what we can do as a city council to help get the recruitment more strengthened and to get more people into this community. And he said immediately quality of life. So that's what and he also mentioned you guys are doing a good job, so keep up that good work. So he said we see constructions everywhere, new restaurants coming in. So, and he said you have the survey, so you know what the needs are for the military people. So the point I want to stress is some people think quality of life is not important for this community, but that is very important for people who are listening online or maybe who will be watching this meeting later on. So, thank you.
Cal?
I don't have any comments.
Peggy?
I have none, thank you.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to our consent calendar. We have one item on our consent calendar this evening. It is item number 1, which is proposed action to approve the draft minutes of the Ridgecrest City Council meeting dated November 2nd, 2022. Does any member of the council wish to have this item pulled? Does any member of the public wish to have this item pulled? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar as presented?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second. Roll call.
Mayor Bruin,
Aye.
Mr. Blades,
Aye.
Mr. Rajaratnam,
Aye.
Ms. Breeden,
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Great. Next item would have been item number 2. We are going to skip over item number 2. It's been pulled for the agenda. We have committee reports. We have a couple different reports. I have city org and finance and economic development. Do you want to do economic development first?
That's fine.
Go for it, sir.
Okay, we met on November the 9th. We did not have a lengthy discussion. There was a few items we covered. It was some general updates about developments throughout town. Again, not a lot has changed. There wasn't, let's see. We do, however, and this was something that I wanted to bring up to you, Mr. Mayor. It was your suggestion that it was a good one, that each committee come up with like a summary report for what's been done. Thank you, Megan. And it's pretty brilliant. So if the city council ever wants to see these in the future, like maybe we want to actually present them, one spokesman from each committee. I'm sure the community would be happy to hear it all.
I think we discussed at city org at some length, the idea of this is something that I'm hoping we perpetuate every 2 years, is that, just like Congress is changing over, our council, based on the structure that we've put with the 2-year mayor and the 4-year council, it has the potential to turn over every second year. And so I've wanted this to be something that we hopefully continue with, and I've talked to them about putting it on the website as the, first congressional, I'm being crazy on my thought process, but here, that it says the 2000 to 2022 council and summary and where that council was at the end of that period for the next council to know what they're working on in the future. I think we're talking about the website right now.
Okay. Yeah. The next thing we discussed was we know that out of the survey that you mentioned, Solomon, there is going to be a lot of items that get parsed out to the various committees, City Org, Parks Rec, out to Economic Development. So I asked the staff to take a look at that, see what gets pulled down to us, and we'll put on the agenda. I'll redouble my efforts to implore folks to come out to these committee meetings because they're not heavily attended. That's okay if you don't want to be a part of those discussions. But that means your council and your commissioners and your staff are going to move forward as best as they can with the items they have, which is our job, and we take it seriously. But we could always welcome public input. And there was one last item that there was some discussion about the city possibly supporting the IWV Outlook Conference, and so we are going to discuss that at the next economic development meeting. And that's all I have. Solomon, do you have anything to add? Okay.
Covered everything.
All right.
Okay, our city org meeting, I I think it was just me and Bill it was me and Bill, yeah. City Org met on, I believe it was the 3rd, if my memory is serving me correctly. City Org is obviously working very much on, one critical item, and then the other items that we are continuing to work on are all kind of backwards related to that one, and that's trash. Is the trash implementation process remains our primary priority out of City Org. We're continuing to work on both marketing and messaging, which is to make sure that people know a lot of the facts that are around the trash, what options they have around the trash, what are the things that they're going to be required to do. I want to thank our team of both staff, council members that were at the Petroglyph Festival with a booth out there answering questions. I was amazed at the number of people who saw the little organics bucket and it drew questions, and they got their biodegradable bags and said, "What is this for?" And we got an opportunity to talk about more how trash implementation is going to look. We have a long road still ahead of us with trash. Implementation, assuming supply chain is on schedule, is still looking in the January timeframe. That's not going to be everyone on one day shows up and you've got a new barrel. But there will be new barrels being delivered. There'll be changes of the lids. There's going to be a lot of little things happening on the trash. And we're trying to make sure that we have that communication with you, the citizens, as much as possible. There's one other thing on trash that I just want to personally reiterate, and then I'll let you talk about the hall. Cool? Yeah. Okay. I have reiterated this in City Org and at other things, and I want to reiterate it again on the record for the public to hear. If you are concerned about the fact that you have too big of a barrel for your needs, we have negotiated the ability for you to downsize your barrel. You have to take the time to call Waste Management and say, "I want to downsize my service to a smaller barrel." It is out there, it is available, and for those individuals that are concerned about the pricing and the cost, if you have not investigated the idea of downsizing your barrel, if you are not filling it every week, then we encourage you to consider a smaller barrel. That is part of the process and one of the things that we negotiated so that we could service our citizens' needs, and I encourage you to take a look at that. I'll turn it over to Kyle and let.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I should have mentioned it during my comments. And we, on trash, the city wants to be a part of the process with the community of walking them through. We know it's a painful process and painful on many different levels. So we wanted to walk through the community on all the details. That means what gets sorted, how it gets sorted, what can it is, and I don't want any of that to come across as patronizing. We understand that this is not being swallowed easily by many members of the community. I'm one of them, okay? But nevertheless, it's our duty to walk through and make sure this gets implemented as smoothly as possible. And part of that is information. And part of that is you knowing that we're here to continue to answer those questions and work with Cal Recycle, which our staff is doing, and work with Waste Management, which our staff is doing. And we're going to continue to do that. And that it's not like this process is just going to start and we're going to walk away and we don't want to hear about it. We want this to be a continued line of communication. So right now the tentative date is 12/14. So that's just next month on the 14th at 6 p.m. But we hope to have some visitors.
To be clear, you didn't say it was a town hall.
I did.
You did? I don't think you did. I think I said town hall, looked at you, but I don't think we said town.
Okay.
We're holding a.
We're going to hold a town hall. We're going to consider this meeting a town hall. Sorry. Too many lines of communication at the same time. And we're going to hold the same forum we did the last one. You're going to have members of staff. You're going to have myself. If there's any other council members that feel like being there, feel free to step on up. If you want to leave me to do it, that's okay too. And we will hopefully have some visitors from the county. And I believe that's all I have.
I don't know if it got mentioned at the last meeting, but since we're talking about trash, and I can take the 30 seconds to compliment the gentleman again. Mr. Blades, once again, working with one of our local churches, the amount of trash that they pulled out from behind North Gold Canyon and that area, just amazing. Thank you for continuing to work so hard on trying to work to make this community as, it's a compliment. You are the first one out there every single time willing to pick up a bag and willing to get the stuff off the ground. I just want to make sure how much it's appreciated.
So I'm glad you brought that back up. I think that that's a process that's working as it should. I think everybody can agree, especially in this, this community, no matter what you look at the votes, but this community does still consider itself a conservative community on many fronts. Well, the last I checked, part of that conservatism is not always relying on your local government. We're very happy to step in at any point that we can and help where we can. And we see that we have to take an increased role in different portions of the community. And we should be volunteering and helping where we can. And I think you'll find that along this council. But it was, I was overjoyed to, for the LDS church to step up and to get Just Serve in action and really lead that effort. I was there to support. I was there to make phone calls if they needed to be made, to take Facebook messages and field things. But and thank you, staff, for helping out with that as well. So hopefully things continue to operate that way. The city's there as always a helping hand to guide when they need to. But this community still does a pretty good job of all these various organizations. Some of them are sitting right here right now. This is how communities work. It's how they move forward. So. Okay, I think I'm done again.
I just want to make sure I told you thank you because I wasn't there and you were, and I just know how, every single time I see it in one of those events, you've got your gloves in your bag and you are out to serve this community, and we appreciate it. That was the gist of City Org, was largely around trash, largely around our implementation. We have some other programs out there. Just one last plea for SSUSD, our local schools, our local private schools. We have a program that's out there to help teach children how to use how to sort, and we know that the best way to make a parent sort their trash is to guilt them by their children. We are absolutely certain of that, and we would like to get to your children and send a free seminar to your school at no cost to you. It's part of one of the grants that we have. Let us send out, I'm apologize, what's Mighty? Eco Heroes. And if there's anybody out there, if you have a classroom, if you are a teacher, and you have an interest, reach out to myself, any member of the council, our city staff. We'd love to get you some details and get that out into our community. It's something we were given through a grant program, and we'd love to get it out to teach our kids, because they are the future of having to deal with continued state legislation. In regards to finance, I have some incredibly fun and exciting news to share from finance. Finance committee is typically the most boring committee, and I think in the course of 2 years, I have had maybe 2 people show up that weren't part of the actual discussion for a finance meeting. But I want to give this entire community exposure of what you don't understand that you are seeing and happening behind the scenes that I really wish you would participate in. Once again, it's the second Monday each month, second Tuesday each month. Sorry, I got so many. Second Tuesday each month. We'd love to see you there. So I'd like to jump in a time machine with you if you don't mind. In 2012, the RDA hit. And we will have a full presentation of this by our finance director in January. But the RDA was what impacted us, and we implemented Measure V, and we began what was a very hard financial process for the city. A lot of people don't understand just how much we were financially crippled by the loss of the RDA. We were so financially crippled that in 2016, our state auditor ranked us as one of the worst fiscal cities in the state. You might remember that headline. I certainly know I do. And at that time, we were in the bottom 20th percentile of cities across the state in terms of financial health. Bottom 20th. And I want to express my deep appreciation for our city staff, for City Manager Strand, for everyone who's worked on this process, that I'm very proud to say I have a summary in front of me that shows we closed our 2020-2021 fiscal year in the top 15th percentile of cities health-wise statewide. Everyone who says that we are not acting in a fiscally responsible manner at the city level, I now dare you to challenge me with facts. The facts are right here. But I like sundaes. Anybody else like sundaes? I like hot fudge sundaes. And I like a cherry on top. So let's drop a cherry on top. One of the things that our finance committee did and focused on about 6 months ago was having a conversation regarding the wastewater fund. And more specifically, how are we taking our cash savings that we've been preparing for the wastewater plant, and how are we using those assets to ensure the effective investment and yield for the city to be able to advance city projects. I'm very proud that thanks to the good efforts, once again, of our finance director, Sherry, and our city manager, the effective use of our investment policy, which had not been previously used, we have estimated a gain of $4.6 million of city revenue over the next 2 years from investments. Now, the bulk of that will go back to our wastewater plant. We're reducing your debt load as a citizen in the future, but additionally, it's going to free up somewhere between $750,000 and $1 million each year for the next 2 fiscal year cycles that we can use on city projects and other areas of our concerns. When combined with other possible revenue solutions that have been presented, this puts the city in an excellent position financially, within the top 15 percentile of cities statewide, and with a revenue and in a position to take the city forward. Thank you to our finance director and to our city manager for focusing on the things that we asked you to focus on and making sure that the fiscal health of this community and this city is at the top of its game. And it is. That is my finance committee report.
You would get excited about the finance committee and
Hey, Solomon, how does that sound to you? Trust me, the finance people know, but the key is we take a lot of shots, and we can't say a lot. It's not our response. We shouldn't respond. We should listen. We should ask questions. We should make facts. We should understand what people's concerns are. Every citizen in this community, and especially those that supported Measure B, understand that the city's problem was not how we managed the city. The city problem was we had no revenue. You can't make blood from a turnip. I think we've got a beautiful looking forward now for the next couple of years. So that's all I'm going to stop at finance because other discussions would be inappropriate. Okay. RACVB was canceled, so we don't have a meeting from that. Thank you, Megan. Other committees, boards, or commissions? I was not able to make EKEA. I apologize. Is there any other? I'm going to do Kerncog for you tomorrow.
I appreciate that.
Any other commissions, boards? I know that Doc Heyman was at IWVGA. So I know there was good discussions, some really good discussions. That's why I pulled it from the agenda, because I don't want to speak not on his behalf. I want to let him represent. City manager report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council. As you know, the results from this month's election are coming in quite slow. We still have about 50,000 ballots out there the county needs to count. We know that the county has to certify the election by December 8th, and normally our first meeting of December is when we swear in the new council. But because of everything going on, staff's recommending that we move the swearing in of the new council to the second meeting in December 21st, which would give, obviously, everybody the opportunity to plan appropriately. We'll have the election certified. We should be able to move forward. As you know, we're going to have at least one new council person, so it'd be nice for that person to be able to plan for their family to be here for that event of them being sworn in for the first time. And it'd be a shame that if we had planned for it for the 7th and had to cancel because the election wasn't certified. So staff's recommending that we move the swearing in to the 21st. Also, the last week of the year is normally liberal leave for the employees of the city. So we are recommending that we cancel our first meeting of the year, January 4th, and then reconvene that first meeting or the second meeting in January. So those are my recommendation, and just want input from council whether or not that's acceptable.
No issues. I think
No
that's a
issues
good
for
idea.
me.
They'll also give staff, an opportunity to onboard the new council member. Give us a little bit of a chance to give the information, reach out, have the staff, brief the new council member and all of the things that are going on, so.
That's it?
Yes, that's my report.
Okay. So next item on our agenda is future agenda items. And this would be an opportunity if any council members would like to discuss anything that they would like to have staff begin to work on for future meetings or future agenda items. I have several that I would like to discuss, but I would like for my fellow council members to join. Peggy, you get to kick off the festivities.
I have nothing because I think it's appropriate as I am termed out. I will not be on the council any longer, so I am going to let you all set your own direction rather than me having done that for almost 8 years. So thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to go first.
Okay. Kyle, you wanna tee something up?
Why don't you go first, Mr. Mayor?
Okay, I'll just take on I'll take it on right at the bill. So future agenda items is our opportunity to direct staff. And while the election is not yet certified, I certainly believe that the indications of our citizens imply that they are willing to support and have supported Measure P. And therefore, I would like to have some discussion and some opportunities for us to get some things organized and ready so that by the time we come into our January session, as discussed, we can certainly get to work on some of the bigger issues that I know our citizens want and are desirable to see happen. So one of those first ones that I would say is, I believe that there is a consensus amongst our council for anything related to maintaining and continuing both fire stations. If there's any direction that staff needs or resolutions related to maintaining both stations, please, I would ask that those come forward. And then the other one that I certainly is near and dear to my heart is the leveling and rebuilding of the John Penny Pool, of the Sergeant John Penny Pool. Now, I do state the leveling and the rebuilding because anybody who is not aware, Penny Pool is not recoverable at this stage. It has gone through close to 6 years of neglect, earthquakes, and Father Time. And the simple fact is that if we are going to build the community pool that this community is asking for, we need to begin from a clean slate. The other thing is, Penny Pool was designed on one very small footprint of land when it was first built. We own land adjacent to it. We own land behind it, above it, and below it. And I would rather see us design the facility that this community needs and desires for its future, not simply put a Band-Aid on its past. Therefore, it is my request that the city staff begin looking through our previous records, our history of items, anything that we have in terms of previous examinations, knowledge, or expenses related to a retrofit of the pool. I believe that there was a study done in 2011 that might be able to provide some shed. I also know that there's previous council members that worked with USA Swimming on some information that might be helpful in an effort to bring forward a discussion that would move us forward with rebuilding the Sergeant John Penny Pool as a new facility with a targeted completion date by no later than the summer of 2025, summer 2025. Sorry, summer 2025, and in construction by no later than the summer of 2024. There's my agenda item.
So I would. I was just going to say, I'm glad I'm glad you kicked this off, and of course, I am a big fan of not counting my chickens before they're hatched. But if we do see a certified election that that Measure P has, that the voters have spoken and their will is to we put forth and made sure that it was on the ballot, Measure P. we wanted to fix some of the issues with this city, and this is how we saw the best way to fix it. And I think one of those issues, my word, is making sure that the police force is staffed appropriately. And I'm hoping that you, Mr. City Manager, that you could make sure that should Measure P pass, that is one of the very first things we get done, that the positions are staffed appropriately, and I think that you on the Finance Committee, you've probably done a lot of looking at not just the police force, but the staff and how they're compensated. And I know that they've been behind for a very, very long time. And I think it's time to address that. You guys probably have some numbers on that, I'm guessing.
Well, I know that Peggy and Doc were passionate about the study that they worked so hard on. I know that one of Peggy's goals was always to see that resolved before her time.
For my time.
Before her time at council, and assuming that we get certified results that imply that we are capable of now addressing this issue, Peggy, I believe that this council moving forward is dedicated to making sure that we correct that issue and that we take that staff salary and make it appropriate for the long-term retention as well as the ongoing needs of this community.
Yeah, I have to say, you know, on the topic of law enforcement, it seems like it's something that we mention a lot up here. But when you look across the state of California and maybe even some other states, there's a lot of cities that I don't believe, and it's not necessarily always one specific issue, but things have combined to create a bad environment for crime. Some of those have come about because of laws at the state level, and our police force, you know, often has one hand tied behind their back as it is. If they're not funded appropriately, if they're not equipped appropriately, then we're doing them a great disservice. And beyond that, you know, we're destroying our own community. We have to stay on top of it. We have to make sure that our police officers are proud to wear that Ridgecrest PD badge, and that they know that they're supported at every turn from their council. Those are my big things. You know, when I want to make, you know, we told the community that this is what we wanted to do, and it weighs heavy on me. And I hope you can tell by the way I'm drawing this out. Asking the community for money is not something that sits on my shoulders lightly. It's a heavy thing. The community has to trust us to do that, and I don't think these days trust in institutions has gone down. So we have to continue to prove that. Right. And there's also a great percentage of people out there that voted against Measure P. We can see the votes being tallied. So we have even more to prove to you that we will do exactly what we said we will. There was several people who called me and said, you know, Kyle, I trust you when you tell me you're going to do what you're going to do, but I'm just having a hard time believing that everything's going to happen like you say it will. And I said, okay, well then watch and see. Just wait. We'll do what we said we will. And so we have a heck of a weight on our shoulders, and we're going to pay off on it, as long as I have something to say about it. And the biggest things was the pool, the fire, the staff, and the police to me. Beyond that, then we're getting into the Economic Development Committee, and I think that there's a lot of things we can do in the community. I think that you have a lot of organizations, right, that are sitting right out here that do as much as they can do, but I think they know that the altruism is not as common as it used to be, right? You're seeing participation fall, which is sad to me, and I think it's because people have lost they've lost hope in institutions, they've lost direction, so I think that we just need to get it back. You need younger generations to step up. I don't need to tell you that. But what we can do on this council is I think we can help guide. We can pitch in monetarily and with staff to run community events, cultural events. I've mentioned it before, but I want to reaffirm that, if we do end up with the kind of funds that can help us with the appropriate staff, right? Because right now our staff is operating at a fast pace. We are throwing things at them as fast as we can. The city manager is taking them and going, okay, the plate's full. We're like, yeah, but please keep doing more. And the staff is like, look, we can only have so many minutes in the day. And we're like, yeah, well, we know, but please do more. Do more. So I'm asking, I'm looking at Megan specifically. I'm asking you to do more, Megan, and I'm sure that you will. But more, I'm looking at the city manager. That's a lot to manage, but I'm going to keep asking. We'll start at the economic committee. I'm sure some of it could get into Parks and Rec, City Org, but I would love for us to see have events down on Balsam Street. I would love to see a revitalization of that area. I would love to see more cultural events. I can list a ton off the top of my head, but I don't want to get, again, counting my chickens before they're hatched. Those are my thoughts for future agenda items. That is my hope that the staff can bring those forward. And again, I'm gonna go back for a third time. Hopefully, Chief, you're ready to add some positions back. I hope everybody is aware that we got rid of several police positions. We were already down, but we got rid of even more to help compensate some of our officers. It's a sad state of affairs, but we are where we are. So hopefully we can remedy that. Thanks, Chief. Back to you, Mr. Mayor.
Solomon.
Being the last person.
I was
to
about to say,
speak.
I'm feeling like the Solomon sitting here at the ping pong of the two of us going at it.
Yeah, being the last person to speak, my first priority was community pool, so already spoken about that. Next is public safety, already done. And then staff salaries, already done. So everybody is for all these three top priorities. So in the last council meeting, I generally don't respond to public comments. I did respond in the last meeting because people said, you are not doing a good job. So I said, people elected us with the confidence, with the faith in us that we'll be doing a good job. And again, these elections, two of the same people were re-elected, supposedly. So that shows that we are doing a good job. So otherwise, you would not have elected those two candidates again. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Well, thank you both. And I think that we've given a nice laundry list of future agenda items that we would certainly like to see addressed. I'm going to throw a couple on a couple more out there just on the proverbial long-term pile of thought processes, which is redundancy of roles amongst the city is something that we need to continue to look at as we work on the staff salary schedule and all the other things. Somebody like Mary Stage, who's given her life to the animals of this community, who is there when Mary's ready to be done? I know in our HR and our back end department between Trish and Rika, we know that there's some needs there in terms of how those escalate. I know that Parks Director Wagner in Parks is going to have her hands 2 and 3 times over full, and making sure that she has the necessary support in those pieces, that our finance department has all the resources that it needs. Our public works department, they're not that important, so I'm just kidding. Anybody out there on the record, I'll find this on Facebook tomorrow. Anything that, I know Travis has a ton of projects lined up, anything that we can find as far as new things that continue to support the goals and missions of what Parks has been doing. Travis, for those of you that don't know, we're very close to kicking off a major project, guys. Ward is close. Ward getting done is going to be big, and it is a big project, but we are within months of getting Ward kicked off. And while Measure V paving is something that they're expecting, but Ward is that big repair that people have been screaming about for so long, that your suspension doesn't hit the dip, but it's coming. And then just a few other things that I think we should explore in conversation, perhaps over the next year, over the next 2 years. These are all things that could be future agenda items, not for January, but for future meetings. That would be our EV infrastructure. What is the community strategy on how to manage EVs? There seems to be a general push, just like any other things, that the state is going to, that the larger communities of the state are going to continue to direct the rural communities of the state to have more and more changes to their ability to use vehicles. And therefore, in rural communities, we better have some type of strategy for an EV infrastructure, or we're going to have a problem, just like trash 8 years down the line when it shows up at our doorstep. Access to the community rooms and for our community groups. Kyle said it great. Volunteerism is one of those things that continues to be a challenge. I think we have incredible facilities at our city here. I think that the citizens are paying for it now through the tax dollars. Is there a way we can create access points or create abilities for our local community groups to have the use of our city facilities without the additional costs, with the ability to be able to bring their groups together and meet? If the ship wants to meet and do something, they can have the use of one of the side rooms or something like that. I understand the big rooms are something different, but the side rooms are available and they're there, and maybe we can find a way to create some access points. I'd really like to see us look at the entire Freedom Park complex in the future. Not just the pool, but also what are the needs that we have around the pool that need to be addressed. Things like Warner Street and how kids are able to cross the street between the park and the pool. The abandoned Helmers Park next door to Penny Pool. The senior center, is there things that the senior center needs? I believe that Freedom Park should develop similar to what Leroy Jackson Sports Complex is going to be, which is a shining star inside of our community that brings multiple recreational facilities available to our citizens on multiple fronts. That includes also some retrofit and revitalization to the splash pad. I know there's some things that we didn't do perfectly on the splash pad that we would like to go back and amend. If you've ever been down there, I know I got the joy of slipping on the water once and it was unpleasant. And also bringing playground equipment or other things to balance out the ability for bigger kids and smaller kids to have an experience within the Freedom Park complex. Our hope is obviously a couple years from now, if all things are equal and all citizens are equal, that we can see the return of meets and competitions and summer usage. And we should really look towards building not just one facility, but building a shining star at the center of our community for different recreational needs. I reiterate and agree with my fellow council member on Balsam Street in regards to continuing to focus on how do we revitalize additional economic areas. I believe that Flight Line Tap Room, because I don't say it right, is an example of the demand and entertainment that is wanted from this community, and I think we need to look at how we deliver that on a more consistent basis, not through a business, but through creating shade and creating areas that can accommodate that.
I have one more thing, when we're talking
Are you
about.
going to steal my last one?
No, you know what, go ahead.
I got one to go, and then I'll pass it back to you.
Yep.
Okay?
Go ahead.
And then last but not least, I do not want to see a porta potty in Pearson Park any longer. Can we please put a bathroom inside of our park? I understand it's another project for Nerissa, and she's going to go, thanks, you gave me another one. But I think we've grown up to the point that we should probably move away from the porta potties inside of our park. I think that plus the other accessibility things that I've talked about, I think we don't let up with just what we've been able to do through America's Rescue Plan for our parks, but we continue to look for other ways to make them part of that quality of life and facility need that makes our community better. So with that, Mr. Blades.
I got nothing else. I'm good.
Huh?
I got nothing else.
Were you going to say the bathroom?
Yep. It's on my mind, right? A lot of these parks and rec things, but but the community, I hope, understands that we didn't just spend a few minutes talking about how we're gonna go on a boondoggle with tax dollars. These are things the community expressed back to us through surveys, through actual data that we can tangibly hold up and say, look what we're not off just wasting your money. We were asked to do these things. Because I can tell you, if the surveys would have went differently, if the votes went differently, I would be the first person sitting here saying, Mr. Mayor, it's time to quit watering parks. It's time to shut down a police station.
Yep.
And I would be draconian about it.
Yep.
And I don't say those words lightly. I don't like the idea of saying it, but I would definitely be one of those people. But that's not the way it went. We let the vote speak. We let the community speak. Now we just need to pay off on what we said we would do. I think there's some other things on my mind, but I can always bring them up later. One of them goes still back to law enforcement. I'm watching the county there's a county tax measure that was going through. And I'm curious to see that if that county tax measure goes through, if promises were made, if those will be carried out.
Good message. Certainly hope that the county follows through with any promises that they've made. Good point. Any other future agenda items? No? Okay. Mayor and council comments. Peggy,
No, not this time.
next time?
Next time.
Agreed. Solomon? None? Kyle?
I'll say one more thing about the election, and I think that no matter how things are certified come December the 8th, you know, it's still, I'm sure I'll say it again in a future meeting, but Mr. Mayor, your service has been wonderful, right? I think you've done a really good job. And I'm going to tell the community right now that our very first conversation, I was not so sure about you.
No, we weren't sure about each other.
No, it was a tense lunch outside of Pita Fresh.
Absolutely correct.
You know, but that's just the honesty of the community. I had no problem telling Eric how I felt. I had no problem telling him that I was wary of his leadership and that I was going to hold him to a high standard, and I did, and he has paid off on that. And a lot of times the community is not always aware of how things go and that work that goes behind, and that's okay. You're not supposed to. That's our job. We're supposed to do our jobs, and you do yours by being involved and holding us accountable at the ballots, you know, on the ballot. So I think you've done a great job. So if it is certified that you're reelected, I'm happy that that's happened. Mr. Heyman's not here, and I would like to wish the same to him. I've learned a few things from Mr. Heyman. He's really been through the wars. He's been down in the trenches, taking a lot of grenades, and I appreciate him standing fast and doing what he thinks is right. Peggy, I have a lot to offer you. You've taught me a great deal about what it is to. I think you almost single-handedly brought a lot of decorum back to this council. A lot of measured responses, a lot of taking arrows yourself over very hard topics in the community, and I don't think anybody else could have done it the way you did it, and I'm proud to have served with you, and I'll have more to say in the future. When it comes to the election, no matter how Measure P goes, I want to reiterate that if voted in, it's a heavy burden asking the community, especially in a time of inflation's up. People are, when you go to the gas pump, I just bought gas before coming here. It's high. It's higher than I believe that it should be. And there's multiple reasons for that, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm an economist and pontificate. But I will say that I'm very aware. I know what it's like to get hit in the pocket. Thanksgiving's going to be expensive for everybody. And I take it seriously, those tax dollars. And I hope that everybody believes that and understands it. And so it's up to us to build that trust with you. Over to you.
Thank you, Kyle. And it has been a pleasure to work with you guys, and you guys all know that. It's been a blast.
Not leaving, right?
I ain't going anywhere. Unless there's a dramatic shift in the electoral count, but I hope I'm not going anywhere. Next is my comments. I have two very quickly. I failed to acknowledge Mr. Dave Janis and his receiving the CCAP award of distinction. I apologize. I don't say if. Huh?
Leadership Award.
Leadership Award. Again, I've said it before from up here. I'll say it again. If you don't know who Dave Janis is and what he's done to help this community, trust me, that man deserves your thanks and appreciation. He has worked tirelessly, both on the base and off the base for this community. And, you know, I got to working with Dave in the first 2-3 months of my term, and redistricting was gonna be a gnarly thing to handle, and he got me right from the beginning and all the way up until that December 24th phone call. I thank him immensely for all the efforts that he did on behalf of our community for redistricting, and congratulations. It's very well earned, and you are appreciated. The other one is I want to talk about a great old Ridgecrest tradition. And for those of you that don't know the story of the flowers, this just happens to be November. And November means that the Charlotte Braitman Day is going to be celebrated again on November 22nd. And this was a date that was declared in 1997. And it was in honor of Charlotte and the Braitman family. Bob was a graduate of Burroughs, class of 1964. And their family moved here to China Lake from New York in 1948. And the family and Dad Jack was one of the first designers on the base at Knott's, Naval Ordnance. You call it Knott's, or what's the?
Ordnance Test Station.
Yeah, what's the acronym? How do they say the acronym? It's just Knott's? Because I know them, the NAS, and I didn't. But that's the old terms, isn't it?
Yeah.
NWC, Naval Weapons Center. Okay,
It's old, and you got different commands. You got
let's start with
navigator, knock
1948. My mother was barely born. So the bottom line is they came here, they made their home here. This became, for the Braitman family, so much of a tradition. And beginning in 1997, this council recognized her. And for every year since 1997, and this being the 25th year, they have sent flowers to the city as a gesture of thanks for declaring the day in her honor. And every year we get the honor, as in this seat, to say thank you again to the families that came before us. Thank you to the families that are going to come after us, and thank you to everyone who's made up the wonderful weave and texture that makes up what Ridgecrest is, both past, present, and future. November 2022 should stand as a moment that we took a very large step into our future for this community, and I believe it will show that over time. But it was your role as citizens in taking that step with us as a council that I thank you for, that I thank you for that same trust that Mr. Blades reiterated. And more importantly is I thank you for the first and foremost, it's the old feeling. And we all had it once. And we were 16 or 17, and it was the first job that we were given. And it was given this to us, and we were told, do your best, do a good job, earn the respect of the people around you by following through on what you do and on what you say and how you do it. And you know what? There's been a lot of distrust that's been placed upon politicians from either the state or from the federal or through other things or through social media or through just how we want to find somebody to blame. But I just want to thank you. You hired me 2 years ago to do this job. I think I've done it pretty good to earn your respect, but that's nothing compared to what I think this council is going to do in the future with our abilities to finally address some of the key things that we have been handcuffed by for so long. So, like somebody taking a new job, thank you for the opportunity, and now it's our responsibility to show you how far we can deliver on that. Thank you very much. I wish everyone a fantastic evening and a happy Thanksgiving. Please enjoy being with your families, and we'll see you again first Wednesday in December. Thank you.